How are things, all right?
Good,
Yeah,
good.
everything's good. We understand that your works basically comment on like the chaotic society of like the modern world through like advertisement and wasteful materialism. But where did this come from? Like,
See, I started out as a graffiti artist. So back probably early 2000s, there were a lot of us that were actually really prominent street artists. And we then sort of launched into the fine arts, yeah. So people at the time, we were I'm just trying to think, people like Anthony Lister, myself, there were a lot of just street artists at that particular time.
Yeah.
And when I moved into the commercial galleries, I mean, although I make pop art, I just didn't want sort of my pop art to be just sort of generic, you know, like it really had to have some sort of discourse, because it actually came from the streets where I was making social comments, you know. So so my work has always sort of had this kind of this underlying philosophy in it. Not only is it pop and is it colourful, not only do I use images and sort of images that you recognise, I've also kind of somehow culture jam your thinking a little bit using social commentary.
When were you first interested in making art?
I mean, I've been an artist all my life. So from a very young age, I'd say, like at the age of 5, I would always be constantly drawing and working from images, from magazines, working from television, where I would incorporate word, text and visual verbals into my work. And as I kind of grew up, I had this real interest in graffiti art that has both visual and the verbal. So it was the perfect combination for me to actually use words and text and also use imagery as well. I had a huge fascination in music. I was a skater, big into punk rock and metal and also at the time I was, into breakdancing and hip hop as well, so it just became an easy kind of transition where my work would be very, very influenced by my hobbies. And then it just became seamless. Like I started doing graffiti as a young artist, and I'd be incorporating the visual, the verbals into my work, and eventually my love of pop art, my color was all there, and then I got into Kofa, and then my career sort of took off from there. You finish university, right, and there are so many artists that come out of university, right? And the reality of it is that maybe 1% actually crack it. So leaving university, I was really hungry and I had a lot to say, and I started exhibiting. And I went to ARIs, artist run initiatives and galleries where I would pay to view. And I would do shows, continuously do shows. And I did group shows, independent shows, and they were all off my own back. So we had friends turning up, and I had friends turning up. And slowly over the years, maybe after 300 shows, I started having a following, like people started saying, this is really good work. And it became the scene. We're talking early 2000s, so the graffiti culture had started to break in commercial art galleries. So it was, I had a huge show at China Heights, which was again an independent show, and then I had like commercial galleries approach me and say, hey, do you want to show with us? And then I had my first commercial show in Sydney, and then my career took off because I had commercial galleries then all over the world approach me and wanting to represent my work. My work is really heavily based on pop art, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm really heavily influenced by pop culture, extremely influenced. And today, I'm Australia's leading pop artist. So I show in galleries and museums right around the world. I've got like 30 galleries in virtually every single country. My life now is very different. And my influences, as I travel and as I show, my influences are continuously growing and evolving.
Mm-hmm.
But in a nutshell, what I do is I culture jam. So I'm not just your normal pop artist. I use memories, so childhood memories, things that people grew up with, right? And I use my bright colours and childhood memories to actually culture jam a really, really heavy social issue. There's real heavy duty issues like mental illness. There's our dependence on social media. There's issues like the Me Too movement. There's really heavy topics that I actually jam. So I use oil sticks, which is a really, really difficult kind of medium. So when I was a graffiti artist, right, I'd use spray paint. So spray paint was really immediate. There was an immediate transfer of colour, right? But when I went to university, like the first thing they said to me was, look, like street art is lowbrow. Like, you need to actually make it highbrow. You need to actually make it into fine art. And so I try to actually translate what I was doing using, ink and paint. But it would be too hard because you need a brush to actually do stuff, like push the paint around. But what I was able to do was I was able to use compressed oil, which I then shaved into little slithers, and I was actually able to draw with it. And it gave me the fluidity and the texture that I was after. And then I would smudge things in. And I was able to create immediate lines and then smudge back. And so oil paint and oil stick has allowed me to work almost like I'd be using spray cans.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that does that. So I actually apply the oil stick, smudge the colours in, rework the colours and pat them all down with brushes. And then once things dry, I then come back and actually apply acrylic paint as well. My favourite shows are always the ones I'm currently working on. For me, that's exciting because I'm in that zone, I'm in that place, and you're really involved with that collection, and that's exciting, really exciting. And then once that's finished and it sells, and you've got a catalogue, and the books are printed, and you've met people, and you've done interviews, and magazines have run press releases and stuff, you then begin your next one. And that's exciting. When you start your next body of work, that's always an exciting body of work as well. If this is what you want to do, keep going to galleries, keep seeing art, work out what you want to do, where you want to show, and just get out there and do it. Just actually do it. Just get your work up and have shows and start the ball rolling, start the process going.